Hello, good evening, everybody. Hello, welcome to the Poetry of Painting. I'm Fiona Hooper, and here with the 90-second show with focusing on art and poetry. So let me just introduce my guest for this evening, and that is Markey Mark Symmonds. So let me bring him onto the screen.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Mark. Hi, how are you?
Hi. I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
Good. Yes, thank you. And actually, it's the first time we've spoken this year, so Happy New Year to you.
It is. Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you.
And we're already in February.
I know, that is scary. Where did January go? I mean, it blinked and you missed it, I think,
Yeah.
Very scary. I do think I'm sort of slightly under the COVID, brain fog still at the moment. Chris is saying hi, Fiona. Hi, Mark. Hi, Chris. But because we were both down with it over Christmas, New Year, but I think it just does take that little bit of time to get over. So that's my excuse anyway, and I'm sticking to that one.
Yeah.
So there we are.
Well, I just had my booster yesterday, my autumn booster. So
right.
Be interesting to see whether they're going to do a summer one, because the chemist seems to think not.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do next year.
Yes.
Or this year, rather.
Yeah. Chris says he's loving the new red background. Thank you, Chris.
It's just cool, isn't it? Really cool,
It's bright and cheerful. Oh, and Angela's here. Good evening, Angela. Thanks for joining us. Do, make comments and ask questions if you'd like to. It's great to have you on board. And to everyone else who's watching either live or on replay, welcome along. So, Marky Mark, you have written a poem, I believe, about my painting, which is called, you can't see my finger with the red background.
Song of the Surf.
Song of the Surf there. Catching my throat there, sorry. So, yes, I've just got it on the wall behind me, but when you get to read your poem, I shall put it on the screen so that people can see it a bit better. So, you chose this one above some others. Any particular reasons why?
Yeah, I think my fascination with the sea. Obviously, for like most kids, I love the seaside, and that. But I have a fascination with sea and rocks and things like that, and the way it smashes up on rocks and waves and things like that. And I could just sit and look at the sea all day long and watch it do its stuff. So the Song of the Surf for me was a real trigger, because if you listen to the noises that the sea does make, it's fascinating, from very small ripples to seagulls screeching to there is so much there, and it just conjured my imagination, fired my imagination up, and that was as much as anything. And I think I've written a lot about sort of inland stuff and things like that. But that's what it brought me back to times I can remember going to Ilfracombe as a child once, and there's a little jetty that goes out and round and back, and you can stand out on this jetty, and there's rocks either side, and just standing there with the surf sort of comes in underneath you. Whilst on this jetty, but seeing these waves just crashing up the rocks at the side, and I could just stood there all day and watched it, and you get a bit of spray on you, and you feel alive. And I think I've got a bit of an affinity, because I spent the first 7 years of my life in Northumberland, in Ashington, and apart from Ashington's obviously very famous for the Charlton brothers, who both were born in Ashington. But it's also near the coast, and so Dad used to go sea fishing. We were often down Whitley Bay and places like that, and New Biggin Beach and things like that, and would wander along getting mussels for Dad going sea fishing and that. So for me, I've never had a mussel in my life, and that's purely because I can't bring myself to eat one, because to me mussels is fishing bait.
Yes.
And we used to get buckets of mussels and lobworm and things like that off the beach. And also the sea fret that used to bring in. I mean, talk about fog. You go to school, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and that was all because it came in off the sea. It was sea fret,
Yes.
which is really thick,
Mm.
and so although I was only sort of 7 when we moved away from that, there's still memories that stick with me. And I just love the sea. I love the power of it. I love the calmness of it. It's such contrasts.
Yes.
And, I think that's why that inspired me. So, yeah.
And you did write a wonderful poem before about my painting Chroma Pier as well, which again was about the rocks and the water, and beautiful poem, that one as well, which is on my YouTube channel, folks, if anyone wants to go and have a look for that as well. They're all on there, FionaHooperArtist.
And what's interesting, as I say, is I've kind of in my poem likened the sea to an orchestra. And the different elements that actually come in at different times and things like that. And it is because it makes different noises depending on what it's doing. It is like an orchestra. And it starts off with, almost as a symphony where, it starts off very quiet and then it comes to this big crescendo. Reminds me a little bit of a piece that Carl Orff did, which I'm sure everybody's heard. It was actually used as the theme tune to Britain's Got Talent. Do 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 do, and that starts off particularly when you've got a choir there as well. Starts off very quiet, and then it comes up into this massive crescendo. I nearly crashed a car to it once. I was listening to it in the car, and do 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 do, and then I forgot this crescendo coming, and I had the speakers up quite loud, and all of a sudden, and that's what the sea makes me feel like. You start off with this little undercurrent, this little crescendo, and gradually, and it's an anticipation because you can see it start to build. And you're like, when's the big one going to hit? And then when it does hit, you think, oh, is that the biggest one? Is there going to be anything bigger? And then it kind of fizzles off. And
seventh wave.
Hold on to that title, Seventh Wave. Right.
So Chris says
the title of
Chris says that the background makes me look like a weather girl. So today over here, and he also says Cole Porter wrote Night and Day as a result of being inspired by listening to the waves lap on the beach.
Yeah,
there you are. You're in fantastic company.
Yeah.
So
Cole Porter. Now there's a man.
Would you like to read your poem for us now, Marky Mark?
Yeah. Okay.
Let me just add the painting up there so people can see it a bit more clearly. And off you go.
Okay. The sound of the wave movement of the rock, the bubble of the foam, the sounds of an orchestra starting up. First the fizz of the hi-hat stroked with brushes, then comes the woodwinds as gales blow and the start up of the string section fading in and out as the symphony out of this symphony until the climax of the brass horns as the moon becomes the conductor, gradually reducing sounds but still the echo of the clave, the whispering of the hi-hat signal the receding of the water before turning and playing the second overture, dragging debris from upon the shore. The crackle of percussion can be heard, the hollow knock of instruments banging together. Then the piece starts to build again, the perpetual motion, each wave bringing in a new instrument, wave by wave. The orchestra plays its never-ending symphony, conducted by the moon and the sun. Instruments come and go. Screeching of seagulls, smashing of rocks, crescendo of the brass section upon the beach head. Slow, slow, quick, quick, slow. The duration of sounds come and go, hardened with the white noise, tossing rocks like plastic toys.
Wow. That's amazing. Really love that. All the imagery that you've got into there is wonderful, and being conducted by the moon, which obviously is what gives us our tides. So, yes, it is conducting the symphony, isn't it? It's amazing.
Your moon and your sun conducting that symphony, and it is a symphony. It never stops. If Beethoven wrote it, it would be in several parts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But and the poem's a bit different because it's not a rhyming poem that I would normally come up with.
Yes.
And I put this down. I'm like, it doesn't rhyme much, but I had to let that stand because actually I didn't want it to, which is really strange because normally I like my stuff to rhyme. But I was quite pleased. I actually rewrote a section of it because I wrote it, and then I had all these instruments going through my head, and the claves for me are quite magical because they sort of ring. If you don't stop them, they kind of, you just get this background ting for a while. And that's kind of like the wave as it goes over, and as the wave draws back and it's pulling the stones over the rock, you kind of like that to the wooden percussion that's going on and things like that. So for me, it was a real sort of pleasure to write.
Yeah, it sounds like it was as well. It really sounds like you enjoyed writing that.
I did, yes. It was, it was something. It was a bit different, and that was good. And when you do get a picture that really speaks to you, it's obviously easier to write, and you can just let that flow out. And what I was able to do with this, which is I often will procrastinate. I often don't write them till a couple of days before, sometimes the day before we go on air. And that's purely that I'm just procrastinating about it. In my mind, just play with it, and then I've got to think, I better get it down. Sometimes I'll get it down and leave it, and then I'll come back to it and think, I've got to put that in. I've thought of something else, and so I tend to build it up like that. But this, I didn't take much building up. The hardest bit was to start with thinking, how am I going to incorporate sound into this? Because I could have written a poem that just went crash, and it would have been the sea. So thank you, Angela, for that. So it's a nice exercise to be able to try and incorporate extra things like sound and relate it to really an orchestra that was going on. And the hi-hat, I got the thing about the hi-hat, there's a little story to that, is that I bought my wife at Christmas, I bought her a Bose speaker, so she could connect music to that. And anybody who knows Bose, they are they are very good quality speakers, and you can hear a lot of detail in them, apart from they've got very good bass. And we were listening to a couple of rock tracks that we hadn't listened to for a while, and you could hear when they hit the snare, you could hear the ride, you could hear a triangle in there that we'd heard them before, but not in that clarity. Not that you could go, that's hi-hat, or that ride he's not stopped that ride, it's still echoing, because often when they hit the ride or the crash, they'll hit it and then we'll stop it, and you can still hear the echo in it and things like that. And so that kind of spurred me to think about the hi-hat and the brush on the hi-hat, and that being that, and the clave being the constant of the sea, whatever it's doing, that's always in the background, that's always around, and you'll hear that, and it'll come through in the sea.
And I think that the sound of the sea is something, and watching the waves as well, it's the sort of thing that you can just sit there for absolutely ages, just absorbing it, just relaxing, chilling, just feeling, that peace of being near the sea. And with the ozone as well, the ozone at the beach, is actually very beneficial for you. You know, there's
it
no
is,
coincidence that they told Victorians to go and spend some time at the beach and sit and watch the
now,
waves. You know.
yes, it is, and it is very good for you. However, I know of people who, depending on what coast they're on, can be quite ill.
Oh.
I know a few asthmatics that if they go to the East Coast, they
Mm.
actually get very wheezy. They're fine on the North Coast, they're fine South Coast, but they go on the East Coast and they find it, they get quite tight chested and quite wheezy. So I don't know what that's about. But
do you think that could be anything to do with, say, dust coming over from the continent? Because we've had quite a lot of things get blown over from the continent, haven't we, over the last few years?
yeah, I mean
Maybe something.
it's been, you know, a lot of years I've heard this from people. I mean, my mother's one of them that, you know, the East Coast affects her. But yeah, I don't know what it is, you know, whether it's just coincidence or whether there is something about the type of wind and yeah, you know, that there's a lot more dust particles coming over because we're actually nearer that side. But then, you know, if on the South Coast, there's not a problem and we're 21 miles from France, you
But
know, at
is it
the
maybe
smallest.
the direction of the wind as well? Maybe there's more industrial
Yeah,
pollution
might well
coming
be.
over in that
Yeah,
area. I don't know.
yeah, may well be.
Surely
You know,
somebody has probably done a study of it by now, but we just don't know the
probably,
answers.
yeah. It's interesting as well because apart from the power, I mean, what fascinates me as well with waves is water has the power to destroy as well. You know, we see that when you know with floods in various places and how
Erosion of
destructive it can
cliffs.
be.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
erosion of cliffs and all sorts. And that's always been a fascination of mine of how calm it can be and how lovely, but how utterly destructive it can be,
Yes.
and how people survive in those conditions. And it really is kind of a potluck thing of you know whether that sea decides it's taking you or not, and you don't have any say about that. And we talk about climate change and things like that, and destroying the planet. And actually, we won't destroy the planet. We'll destroy ourselves. The planet will do as it does, and you know it will choose to wipe us out and then carry on doing what it wants to do, and that's all part of water. And we also, being an island, we've got one of the richest sources of alternative power, and we don't harness it. You know, we've got water all around us, and we're not harnessing the power of that water. You know, we stick turbines out in the middle of the water down at Yarmouth and that, but we're not, you know, we're not actually harnessing, you know, with hydroelectric power, something that could be really sustainable for many, many years.
Absolutely, because the wind, we depend, you know, for wind turbines, we're dependent on the wind blowing, but the sea, you know, we're always going to have the tides coming in and out.
Yeah,
So,
and you can't destroy the sea, really. You can destroy, you know, if somebody wants to sabotage your wind power, that's pretty easy, you know, to do. But sabotaging the sea is a bit different, you know, and so it's rather. And also, I mean, I think what fascinates me as well is the wildlife that comes with it. You know, everything from the razor clams that go into the beach that you can pour hot water on and they come up again, and to, you know, I mean, the thing that fascinates me is seals. You know, off the East Coast. You know, that's incredible that we've got colonies of seals living there, and that, you know, because you always associate seals with, you know, colder climates.
We get them down around the south coast as well. So it's lovely to see them. Yes.
Well, they get. Is it around the south coast as well? They get a lot of the pilot dolphins and things like that down there, and porpoises.
Yeah, we do get all sorts of things, you know. And there was it a walrus, wasn't it, recently that was up around the coast?
On his holidays, didn't
he? You're a little bit off track there, Mr. Walrus, but you know, I think he went safely away back off to where he came from in the end. So, by the way, Chris said the use of the hi-hat cymbal and brushes were very popular with dance band drummers. So
Yeah.
also in your poetry as well. So
Well, that's right. And also, one of the things that happens with drummers is that there's about 3 different styles of drumming they use. And there's one that they use, particularly in reggae, where they drop the first beat. Yeah. So the first beat will either be done lightly on a cymbal or it'll just be dropped completely to allow the voice to have the power on the stage before the drums come in. And when you think that, you know, you've got this wave that kind of almost does the same as this trickle that goes in, and then to allow for other things over the top of it, and then bang, it just explodes into the rest of what it does. And
yes. It's like you get the withdrawal of the water on the sand or the shingle, making that little noise, and then it's the wave crashes over and the crescendo comes there, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it pulls back and things like that. And you know, and again, you can kind of imagine conducting the waves of, you know, and those little tings there, and you know, as I say, I mentioned the percussion stuff, and I, you know, I always liken the stones to when they come back over the rocks as to the wooden things that you beat in percussion, and that, you know, and that clonk 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 that you get, you know, and it's it really is a musical fest.
It is. It's a fun, and it's just such a wonderful place to be. I love being by this coast, but you know, as we said, don't ever underestimate the power of the ocean, because it, as you say, it can destroy as well as create, and it can be beautiful, it can be powerful and terrifying, and we just need to keep that in mind, obviously, because it is such a untamed creature, as it were, you know. So,
and that's part of the reason I named my first book After a Wave. The First Wave is called, and that was about the imagination of the first wave of poetry coming in, washing over you, etc. I'm hoping the second one to be called Tsunami of Poetry, because that's about it crashing in and, you know, destroying what's in its path, and, you know, really, really hammering. And then the third one, I think I'm likely, you know, to call it something like Calm After the Storm or something like that. So you kind of start off with the first wave, the tsunami, and then the kind of mill ponds settling of the stones and things like that. So
how's progress on the second book? Any dates in mind yet?
No. I need to talk with Mel from Dreamwell Publishing, who published my last book, and sort out some dates with her when she's able to do it, etc. And then it's really me sitting down. The material's all there. I've had that for a while. I mean, I've probably got 150, 200 poems that I can use, because I've been writing for 4 or 5 years, you know, before I started performing, and before I'd put, there's about 150 on my blog already, and I haven't updated that for quite a few years now. So there's a lot of stuff. It's just picking out, and what I tend to like to do is some new stuff that I've written and some older stuff, and then, you know, fit things in where I can. So it's just really me getting down, writing the manuscript, getting the proofreading done of that, and then getting it off to Mel, and then she'll work her magic with it, and then we do the release and etc. of that.
Well, keep us updated, won't you, as well, when it's.
I will do. Yes, I mean, it's something I think I'm probably going to push this year, because I'm not performing a lot at the moment. I'll pick it up the odd one now and again. Things have been difficult to perform, so I'm going more towards writing. I'm probably going to be working on a few submissions as well this year to a few poetry books and competitions and things like that. See what comes of it. See if I can get anything
Yeah.
that way. So that's the direction I'm going. And of course, if you want me back, I'll do these as well.
Yes, definitely.
So what was you saying? It's our 90th one.
It's the 92nd show today. Yes.
Gosh.
So we're looking at what we might do for the 100th show in about 8 weeks' time, roughly.
Yeah.
Actually, it'll be more like 9 weeks because there's a week when I'm not going to be able to do one of the shows. So then that'll push it back another week. So there we go.
Well, have you thought of having a standing poet for that show?
I'm thinking about all sorts of things at the moment. I want to make it something a little bit different. So we shall see what comes up.
For the one you're missing.
Oh, for the missing
show
one
that you'll be missing. Yeah.
The thing is, it needs to be streamed to my Facebook and everything as well.
Right,
so
yes.
that gets
that's the problem.
difficult.
Yes. Yeah.
But any ideas you've got for the 100th show, just let me know.
Yeah.
Anybody that's got any ideas, get in touch. Let me know because we'd like to make it special. Yeah. And talking of books, of course, Markey Mark, you have quite a few of your poems in my book, which is called The Poetry of Painting and is available now at $14.99. So it's got poems by not only me, but also by yourself and 9 other international poets. So it's got such a range of styles and ideas in there. I'm just so thrilled with the printing of it. This is the limited edition version. So it is rather nicely printed. In future, there will be some print on demand, which won't be quite as nice paper, but it will still have all the words and all the pictures. So it will still be really good. But every book sold is still raising a bit more money for Alzheimer's Research UK. So every book sold is in a good cause. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's fantastic that money will be raised for such a brilliant cause, and great to work with so many different poets as well. Real international feel, and your artwork in there as well. A real nice piece of work.
Yes.
I'm very proud to put my name in there. So it's to have my stuff in it, some of my stuff in there is a real honour.
And I'm really grateful to all the poets who've allowed me to use their poetry in the book as well. It's just made it such a sorry, quite catching my throat again there. It's just made it such a wonderful book. I am very proud of it, not just because it's got my art in it, but because the whole thing with all of the poems and paintings, it is a lovely book. So if anybody would like one, just send me a message and we'll get that organised for you. And you'll be happy.
They're great fun to do. I did one with Mel from Dreamworld. Did one. They raised money for RNIB, and they did it with photography and a load of black and white photos. And what they did, they went out on Facebook and said, "Who are the photographers? Let's have some photographs." And they got about 100 photos. And then I said to the poets, "These are the photos. Which one do you want?" And write about it. And they put that all in the book. And that works really well because you've got so many different styles and, styles of writing, styles of photography and things like that. It was really, and that's actually why when I was asked to do this, I actually jumped at it because having done that one, I did a piece there was the old castle in the distance and it was very Eric. I thought, this is another direction to take my writing, and so it's been really good to be able to develop that side of it.
And it's been really good working with you, Markey Mark, as well, from my point of view. And I'm just noticing the time. We are almost out of time. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for being on the shows. We always have such a great chat as well. It's really lovely talking with you. I don't think there's ever been a moment that's been, oh, what do we say next? It just doesn't happen, does it? We just chat away, which is lovely. So thank you so very much again, Markey Mark, for being on the show. And we'll come up with something for the 100th show and get you back on again very soon. So thank you everybody for watching
Thank
and
you. It's
making
my pleasure.
comments. And my pleasure as well. So thanks everybody. Take care and look forward to seeing you again in a week's time for another edition of The Poetry of Painting. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Markey Mark. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.